So let me introduce her really quickly and then we'll bring her up on stage. Catherine King works passionately to provide senior executives with the hottest content and insights in the areas of digital data, analytics, information, business development, and innovation. She hosts and moderates Corinium's largest events as well as the Business of Data podcast. Please welcome Catherine King.
Shilpi,
Hey,
thank you
Catherine.
so much. Hello, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm good. I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm going to apologize now to everyone that I sound a bit funny. It's not just the British accent, it is a bit of a cold as well. But thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is so great. And sorry to keep you waiting in the green room. I know we get super excited, some of our speakers, and the audience had such great questions. And so we went a little over time. But yeah, I'll add your deck to the screen and let you take it away.
Amazing. Thank you. No, I was absolutely in awe of Eric there talking all things sustainability. Definitely another passion area of mine for sure. But you gave me a fantastic intro, so I'm not going to spend too much time expanding on what I do. But yes, I do look after our video content and some of our audio content as well. So the Business of Data podcast. And as you mentioned there, I do get to moderate lots of wonderful events. And it's great to be with you all today. And I can see the comments below. So if you do have any questions, do pop them in. But I know we're going to have a bit of time at the end if you do have any questions. So today I'm going to talk you through across the last year within the business of data, how we have been elevating voices within data and analytics and making our content more inclusive and therefore competitive. But I think probably best is if I start outlining a bit more about who we are so you have a bit of context. So Corinium is a successful conference and event company holding portfolios in data analytics, information security, and AI. We have offices and people all around the world generating multi-day conferences through to custom intimate roundtables. And then the Business of Data is our data and analytics platform where we host our content. So this is where the podcast lives. We have reports, articles, blogs, you name it, we've got it. So that's where that all lives. And then over the last year, whilst we've been forming the Business of Data, we've been on a bit of a mission to ensure that we create amazing content where we elevate all voices within the community and do so inclusively. Now, I'm going to take a moment to pause here and say, are we perfect at this? Absolutely not. Like many things, diversity and inclusion is a journey, not a destination. And there is always more that we can be doing. And I'm sure everyone in the audience will agree that there's always more that can be done. But today, I'd like to talk through what we have achieved so far and how we've done it. And the case studies I'm going to share to you with you today are based around diversity and inclusion. However, given the audience that are joining us here today, I do believe that the learning points and action points that I'm going to share are applicable across any portfolio. So whether that be data governance, privacy, or ethics, I know we've already spoken about today. So I'm going to be picking on 3 examples out of the many in the interest of time. Otherwise, I could go on and on about this because it's an absolute passion area. And then I'm going to be drawing out 3 foundations for you to do the same thing in your organization. Hopefully, you can take something from this little talk here today and start implementing it in your organization. Now, before we do all of that, I just want to center us and talk a little bit about why we're doing this. Now, in the previous talk, there was mention of ROI and all those things. And I think it's important that we discuss why we want to be doing these. Now, obviously, the first reason is that it's good to do good. But at the end of the day, there's so many good things that businesses can do. So why should you do this? I mean, again, in the previous talk, we're talking about sustainability, another fantastic thing. But in my beliefs, diversity and inclusion are absolutely fundamental to continued business revenue. If our content was generated by people who all looked the same, had the same backgrounds, had the same perspective, we'd only be serving a segment of our community. And to be honest, the content would just be boring. But by having a wide range of perspectives, it allows us to generate competitive content. And in return, that brings revenue because our partners want to be part of great content. So as you can see, by being inclusive, by being diverse, we're creating better stuff. So just as data practitioners yourselves can develop better models with diversity, we can generate better content with diversity. Now, I know, and I'm going to put it in here now, there may be some people in the audience that still think this way, and I know many organizations still suffer with it, that diversity and inclusion can be regarded as the soft, fluffy topic. But more and more organizations are waking up to realize that they really are leaving money on the table when they leave people out of discussions. So now we know why we're doing it. What have we been up to? So let's start with those case studies. So the first is our leading female executive monthly discussions. So these are in the form of LinkedIn Live panel discussions. Each month, a group of C-suite and senior female executives gather to discuss a hot topic. So far, we've covered the cloud, AI, data culture, data for good, and so many more. We've just recently had our anniversary episodes. We've been doing this for over a year now. And you can watch these on LinkedIn Live, or you can pop over to the Business of Data platform and you can watch them on demand as well. Now, you'll notice from that list that I reeled off that there's no mention of being a woman in data. Apart from our special International Women's Day discussion, we don't expect our panelists to segment themselves and talk about their gender in their role and their work. Rather, our aim is to elevate their voices, thus providing a platform and visibility to others of these amazing executives through their thoughts and experience. Now, this is what I would call diversity and inclusion in action rather than words. Now, I'm going to say, of course, there is absolute merit in the discussion for how women experience the world differently in our community. But I am so much of a believer that it shouldn't be the only topic that we are invited to speak on as women. So what have the outcomes of this activity been? Well, for these women, they've told me that their participation, put my teeth back in, their participation has meant that there's been a greater opportunity to discuss hot topics that interest them. Each of the panel discussions that we do, we consult them, we say, hey, what's interesting to you at the moment? And they tell us. Now, one of the main aims, and I'm proud to say, and I'm fairly confident in saying one of the outcomes, has been to provide an example for upcoming talent, that there are amazing real life examples of women in very senior roles from some of the world's best known brands absolutely succeeding in their careers. Now, this is a break from the traditional image of what a data analytics leader looks like. And I'm really proud that we can be part of that. Now, this work is so important, as we know, and it's important to show the talent market what is out there, because we know that diverse talent is required in order to overcome some of the biggest challenges that our world faces today. So, thinking of AI bias, it was mentioned in the conference already. We are not going to overcome some of these challenges if we do not have a diverse talent pool in the room solving them. So that's the first example. Now, the second example I'm going to give you today is our 30 Leaders Under 30 report. This is pioneered by our head of European marketing, Matt Hunt. Now, earlier this year, we launched this report and the nomination process, and it was the first one we've ever done that was segmented by age. And the idea behind this was to shed a light upon the leaders of the future, the experiences of which will be unique to the audience we primarily cater towards. And again, it's important to do this work for the amazing folk, because the primary audience that we do serve is senior executives. And naturally, that means an older cohort. But providing a project like this, we're able to generate a perspective and understand what's next in the generation of leaders, who's coming up, what are they doing to make the community better, what are they skilling themselves up to be. And what was really interesting is throughout this project and process, it was really clear that a big part of these people's success, the top 30, all had something in common, and that was taking advantage of mentorship. So one of the things we did was create a community shout feature in our weekly Clubhouse room, which we do every Friday, where people can come up to the virtual stage and shout about what they're doing. So lots of people use this to shout about a job opening, or they're looking for a job. Others use it to shout about a post they put on LinkedIn and they want some support. But we really encourage people to say that they're looking for a mentor, or that they are themselves open to mentorship, because we know for the leaders of the future, in order to, again, have that diverse leadership that we really require, we know that mentorship is a huge part of that. Now, the final example I want to give today is a little bit different from the other two. This is more the inclusion side than the diversity side. And this was born out of a chat between myself and our head of marketing and our global marketing officer. we were discussing over a coffee at one of the studios when we were recording our Business of Data Festival content, how so many people consume content in a different way since the pandemic. And I happened to mention recently that I took up listening to audiobooks. Personally, I struggle to retain information the first time round in a long written format. I prefer a podcast, video interview, or audiobook. So in that moment, we came up with the idea of having someone voice over an upcoming report to provide a different way of consuming our written content and for it to be more accessible. Given the industry rise in podcasts and, to be honest, our own podcast success, we felt that this was, a pretty good idea to at least try. And the results have been really interesting for this first attempt and something we definitely want to repeat in the future. And it's given us a new chance for our audience to engage with us in a new way that they haven't been able to before. And something I mentioned at the start, it's also given us that chance to be competitive. Although podcasts are incredibly popular, not too many people are producing audio reports in the data and analytics space. So by being inclusive, we're being competitive. In turn, that equals revenue. So just from those three examples, like I said, I chose three out of the many because I thought they were really, really good examples of what we're up to. So what can you take from these case studies and apply to yourself? So there's a few key things that I think are really fundamental for elevating voices. And again, I'd love our audience members here today to be thinking about their own organizations, their own departments, their own communities, how you can make sure you are being as inclusive as possible, encouraging a diverse audience, participation, speakership, whatever it is you're doing, how you can do it. So the first big challenge is infrastructure. One of the biggest pain points of our community is not having the knowledge of where to participate within their passion. Infrastructure is so key. So because we have a monthly discussion, many women have contacted me asking if they can participate in our leading executive panel, or they want to be regular audience members, or can you send me a calendar invite? Because they believe in what we're trying to achieve by elevating female voices organically. Now, this is what I alluded to earlier, but I really want to pull out here that you really start to attract people based upon your actioned values. Your action is so crucial. So whether that is a forum, a discussion, a committee, an advisory board, whatever it is, there needs to be a level of infrastructure where people can come and live out their values with you. So I keep saying it, but this doesn't have to be diversity and inclusion. This could be, for example, now take ethical AI, because we were talking about that earlier. Why not create a monthly forum where you can get together and chat about the concerns, the opportunities, the excitement, the challenges, confirm a range of guests, get involved, encourage discussion, but most importantly, have a place where that discussion can occur. There is a massive difference between a company that is concerned about ethical AI, diversity and inclusion, and a company that actively provides a place to hear those concerns and act upon them. So that's the first one. The second is, naturally, this type of work also prompts people to talk about your organization. Now, this is great for recruitment, but it's also great for networking and introductions. So I've had many leaders request to be a guest on the Business of Data podcast on the back of listening to episodes with Black in Data or My Skin, My Story. Now, these haven't always led to another diversity and inclusion discussion. It's just that their personal values align to our business actions. It's that they can say, yes, I want to be part of that story. And whenever it comes to brand awareness, I always think of an old friend of mine who said, if the media doesn't know about it, you haven't done it. And I absolutely believe that to my core. It's all well and good doing these activities in silos and internally, but unless you spread the awareness, the good stops there. It can't go any further. So as I mentioned earlier, we've had introductions to other leaders, people nominating themselves to get involved, and just general gains in brand loyalty and positive sentiment, which all enables us to continue doing the work we're doing because it's like a chain reaction and everyone wants to get involved. And then the last thing, which I think is just on every single slide deck ever of any talk of trying to get something actioned, which is having champions. It's absolutely crucial. Now, I'm a firm believer that the work of championship shouldn't fall to one person all the time, but it is so important that you identify who is really passionate about this type of work and then support them. You can't just identify them and say who's passionate, you have to then support them. This goes for internally and externally as well. And again, you can use any topic here. So whatever it is that you're trying to push forward, find those champions, cloud security, ethics, governance, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, find those champions. Now, I have to stop here and do a shout out to our senior leadership team who have always supported our initiatives towards elevating all voices in data analytics. Whatever ideas we come to them with, they say, run with it, do it, experiment with it, which is such a fantastic place to be, because without this executive buy-in, you have a lot of passion and nowhere to put it. And again, that loops back to the challenge around not having infrastructure and not being able to do it. So I'm going to wrap up very shortly now, but my final words would be, don't be afraid to be passionate. It attracts other people to you. Provide a place for that passion to occur. Don't go keeping it to yourself. Spread the message and reinforce your champions with resources and support. Now, the last thing I will say before, if we've got any questions that have come in, the last thing I'll say is we are we're just about to end nominations for our top 100 global leaders list, but you can still nominate yourself, and that will be a huge celebration of everyone in our community. So if you'd like to know a bit more about that, pop me a message. But yeah, she'll be.
Thank you, Catherine. This was awesome. I loved all your examples. Thank you for sharing. Great idea to see this report. I think that's someone from the Corinium team, but it's a great idea to see this report, Catherine, and how the 30 under 30 leaders are seeing the importance and benefits of mentorship and becoming mentors themselves.
Absolutely love that. Yeah, one of the questions I get quite often on this topic is because we were so lucky to have executive buy-in, and not everyone has that in their organization. What do you do if you don't have executive support? And I think it's about demonstrating the value it provides in a sense of being competitive. So as I mentioned with the report, with the audio report as well, it's about saying, well, if we go the extra mile, if we do these things, we're going to be competitive, and it's going to be advantageous to the ROI, which is at the end of the day what all businesses really, really care about. So it elevates voices, it does that human good, but it also helps from a money perspective as well, which is always good.
Yeah, I loved your spin on the report, putting it in an audio format, right? I mean, we are all trying new things, and I know that when we are either active or doing things, then we have still the auditory things going. So whether we listen to a book or a report, I think that's a great spin. And I also agree, being a marketer, lifelong marketer myself, I agree with you. If the media doesn't know it, then you've not done enough, right? I mean, so it's great to be a champion within the company, but sometimes you have to champion it outside of the company also.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think that helps to bring stakeholders on board sometimes, because sometimes they are not convinced of the idea themselves, but when they see the need and the enthusiasm outside, then they are convinced that this is a good idea. So show them instead of data always speaks volumes. So show them.
Exactly. 100%. And I mean, it's statistics like the fact that it's something crazy like 95% of mobile users don't listen to video with sound on. They watch it via captions because perhaps they're in the office looking at their phone, or should be, or they're commuting or whatever. And there's an inclusive comment there with having captions on videos that for the deaf community and the hard of hearing. But actually, is the statistic that the majority of our community are watching videos without captions goes to prove it. So yeah, I'm absolutely behind that. It does need to be data driven. And if it takes that statistic to be the one that pushes the budget over the edge so that you can get captions on your video, then that's what you need to do. Sometimes you need to think outside the box. And it goes back to my earlier comment about diversity and inclusion being seen as the fluffy topic still. It doesn't need to be. You can find a different angle and still get the same result. You don't have to always put it under the inclusion banner. It can be under the marketing banner. It can be under the engagement banner, whatever it needs to be. The results are still the same.
One last question for you, Catherine. I know we have great participatory questions. Quick question for you. You had executive buy-in, but what do you advise? Yeah. Okay. So I think you already answered that question.
I saw that one come in. It's such a common one, and I think it relates to my comment earlier that so many organizations are waking up to this, but I do feel very sorry for those who are still in those organizations who perhaps haven't quite woken up. But I do think the pandemic will have worked wonders for thinking outside the box for those organizations who perhaps couldn't get on board with non-traditional thinking, if you want to call it that. I think that will have helped. So yeah. Captions help others understand accents too, there from Adam, I've just seen. Absolutely, exactly. Very much so. And then you can definitely go down the path of translation as well with captions, allowing people who, you know, aren't speaking the same language. And we do this within Corinium in some of our Brazil and Mexico based events, where you can join and you can have an English speaker speaking to a Spanish speaking audience and do all those fun things. So again, really proud to work where I do, who really champion this going forward.
Thank you, Catherine. It has been a pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, Shilpi. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.